Hi everyone, welcome back to the Chris Fink Show. It is Thursday, June 11th, 2026. This episode is titled America, Rome or Jerusalem? Our National Question. An interesting title indeed. I'm going to explain why I gave this episode this title in a little bit. It's based off of this book called Rome and Jerusalem, The Last National Question, written by Jewish philosopher Moses Hess in 1862. Throughout this episode, I'm going to address why the United States has its relationship with Israel in the way that it does, the thousands of years of history that led us to this relationship, why we need to break that relationship, and how to begin organizing white people to make that a reality. I'll also be discussing why you don't see white people organize along racial lines and the suicidal guilt or shame that keeps white organization from happening. We are going to touch on a lot of things at a surface level because there's thousands of years of history to cover. But I want to hit some of the main themes to get you thinking. The main thing I need you to keep in mind throughout this entire episode: who is Rome and who is Jerusalem? So, to start off, I'm going to show a quick clip I pulled from X that will introduce this idea to you, and I'll explain it after you see it. Here's the clip.
Have you seen this clip of Netanyahu talking about Rome where he says, "We won't lose this time"?
We want to know what you're reading now.
It's a book by a historian by the name of Barry Strauss. It's called The Jews Against Rome.
What made you pick it up?
Well, we lost that one. I think we have to win the next one.
A lot of speculation is saying that the United States is the new Rome.
We're Rome, yeah. So historically, there's some religious texts that mention Rome, the powers in the West, and they use Rome. That doesn't mean they mean Rome in Italy. What Rome was at the time, we are today. We're the empire that has the greatest amount of power in the world.
An interesting clip indeed, and it should get you thinking. So, the book Netanyahu is referencing is titled Jews vs. Rome, 2 Centuries of Rebellion Against the World's Mightiest Empire. It discusses 200 years of Judea under Roman occupation. It talks about a variety of things, but the largest event that stands out to me is the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE. Now, I'm going to explain this more in depth in a few moments, but we have to travel back before Jesus Christ to get a fuller understanding of how this all adds up, and a clearer picture of America's role in all of this. That takes us all the way back to the United Kingdom of Israel. This kingdom united all 12 tribes of Israel under these 3 kings. King Saul, from 1047 to 1007 BCE, being the first king of Israel. He was anointed by the prophet Samuel, and he united the Israelite tribes. King David from 1007 to 970 BCE, being the second king, he established the capital in Jerusalem and expanded the kingdom's borders. And King Solomon from 970 to 931 BCE, being the third and final king, son of David, and he is known for building the first temple in Jerusalem. The United Kingdom of Israel stood for almost exactly 120 years. After King Solomon's death, the kingdom fractured into 2 pieces: the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah. The Assyrian Empire conquered the north in 722 BCE, and the Babylonian Empire conquered the south in 586 BCE. The first temple was destroyed by the Babylonian Empire in 586 BCE. Then shortly after, it was the Persians who exiled the Babylonians, and Persian King Cyrus the Great permitted the Jews to build the second temple in the same exact spot as the first. Construction of the second temple was complete by 515 BCE. Now, let's skip ahead to 37 BCE to 4 BCE. This time period captures the reign of Herod the Great, the client king appointed by the Roman Senate to govern Judea on behalf of the Roman Empire. His father was an Edomite, and his mother was Arab. He was a practicing Jew. Around 19 BCE, he began a massive renovation of the Second Temple. He expanded the temple itself and expanded the platform on the Temple Mount. The western wall formed part of the retaining perimeter wall of the platform. This wall, of course, being the wall you see every single American president visit and pray at. Now, we're going to skip to 70 CE. Roman legions led by Titus burned Jerusalem and destroyed the Second Temple. This time period again is captured in that book Netanyahu was referencing in the video clip I showed you at the beginning. This, of course, being the Jewish-Roman War. The destruction of the Second Temple altered how Judaism is practiced. It ended the ancient sacrificial system at the altar. The religion went from temple-centered to Torah study, prayer, and local synagogues like you see in your communities today. The collapse of the Second Temple is significant in Christianity because it was a prophecy of Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ said the Second Temple will fall, and it did. He said he is the temple. No need for this building and livestock sacrifice. God does not just live in this building. Quite obviously, Jews rejected this. Jesus Christ is the temple. But in order for Judaism to work, Jews believe there must be a physical structure, a physical temple in that exact spot. This is the difference between Christianity and Judaism. Jews do not believe in the divinity of Jesus Christ, and I can go on forever about the Old Testament and New Testament, Old Covenant and New Covenant, but the point of this episode is to show the timeline and to show this clear night and day difference between Judaism and Christianity. Judeo-Christian values is just simply not a thing for the reasons I've shared and many, many more. So let me cut real quick to this clip of Ben Shapiro on Joe Rogan several years ago. Here is the clip.
You know, from a Jewish point of view, where we don't believe in the divinity of Christ, I think that there you can make an argument that the Gospels, which were written,
he was just a prophet, and
significant. No, we don't even believe he was a prophet.
What do you think he was? What do you guys think?
What do I think he was historically? I think he was a Jew who tried to lead a revolt against the Romans and got killed for his trouble, just like a lot of other Jews at that time who were crucified for trying to lead revolts against the Roman and got killed for their trouble.
So he became legend in story, and it became a bigger and bigger deal as time went on.
Yeah, he had a group of followers, and then that gradually grew, and then
do you think he was resurrected?
No, that's not a Jewish belief.
Okay, I just want to check.
Yeah, no, we're not into
we're
not into miracle stories. No, that's
no?
Not. No.
You don't have any miracles?
No, not by Jesus. Right?
No?
They're ones in the Old Testament.
Ones?
Like I can't join a church. I assume I don't believe the things that people in the church believe.
You probably could if you donate. You got to give the right amount of money.
Well, I don't believe in the Jesus, so there's that. There's
the
that
Jesus.
Part. Yeah, that's not my thing, right? I mean,
So there you go. That is the difference between Judaism and Christianity. Jews hate Jesus Christ. We've all seen the statue in Lebanon where the IDF took a sledgehammer to the face of Jesus Christ. They do that because of his prophecy about the Second Temple falling. They reject that as a prophecy. So they reject him. And not just reject, but outright mock in our media, and through countless bombings and destruction being carried out on Christian sites throughout the Holy Land. So, what is built on the Temple Mount today? The answer is the third holiest site in Islam, Al-Aqsa Mosque, built in the 7th century, and the Dome of the Rock, built around 691 CE. So, those sites are built on the exact spot of the first and second Jewish temples. One could imagine that this would present a pretty big issue for Jews. So, if you're following along, Jews hate Rome for knocking over the Second Temple. They hate Jesus Christ and reject Christianity and his prophecy saying the Second Temple will fall and he is the temple. And they hate Islam for having built their sites on the Temple Mount that held the first and second Jewish temples. Going back to that video I showed you in the beginning, Jews versus Rome. Rome today is Western civilization. It's Europe, Canada, America, Australia, and New Zealand. It's white Christianity. Jews view us today as Rome, and not in a positive way, but through this lens dating back to Roman rule in the Holy Land. Jews use us, being Rome, to fight Islam in the Middle East. I believe ultimately so Jews can knock over those Muslim sites on the Temple Mount and build another Jewish temple which would go against Jesus Christ. So one could point to that as a sign being reigning in the Antichrist. I'll elaborate on all of this further in a few minutes. We now have to address the beginning of Zionism in order to understand the more modern day relationship between America and 1948 Israel. I think so far I've covered many of the highlights on the timeline in biblical times, but if I missed anything, be sure to let me know. And again, this wasn't supposed to be a dive into the Bible, just more of a timeline to show events and how they got us here today. And that leads us to the book I titled this episode after, Rome and Jerusalem, The Last National Question, written by Moses Hess in 1862. This book is the first modern labor Zionist manifesto. It calls for the wealthiest Jews of the time, Rothschild being one of them, to fund and finance an organization or society for the colonization of Palestine by European Jews, mainly Jews from Russia, Poland, and Germany. And he uses the word colonize and Palestine. He believed the assimilation of Jews in Europe was doomed, Judaism was being diluted, and he wanted to build a Jewish state that combined nationalism and socialism. Nationalism and socialism. That Austrian painter with the little mustache had that same vision for Germany. Just saying. Now, it is also worth noting that Jewish philosopher Moses Hess worked very closely with Karl Marx and helped shape early Marxist thought. He also introduced Friedrich Engels to Marx. And yes, Karl Marx is Jewish, and he comes from a line of rabbis. His mother and father were married in a synagogue, therefore making Marxism or communism a Jewish ideology. Also, it's important to note the language used by Hess, the national question, or the Jewish question. Adolf Hitler speaks about the Jewish question, and that question isn't about ovens or gas. It's the same question Hess talks about, finding a home for the Jews because assimilation in Europe is doomed. And it's worth noting, Hess wrote this book in 1862, and Hitler wasn't born until 1889. Through the late 19th century, the Zionist project focused on finding a homeland for the Jews. Uganda in 1903 was actually a location that was floated in the debates. This was not to be a permanent location, but a refuge the British Empire would establish for the Jews. Just look up Uganda Plan. That idea was rejected because most members had their sights set on Palestine, but at the time it was still owned by the Ottoman Empire up until their defeat in World War I. Most people cite 1948 statehood as the beginning, but as I've shown you in more modern times, this has been a plan spanning back to the mid to late 19th century, and ultimately a Jewish desire to build a Jewish state, like in biblical times, despite the fact the United Kingdom of Israel only stood for 120 years, But the main aim, I believe, is to knock the Islamic sites down and build a temple on the old Temple Mount. This has been their hope since the collapse of the Second Temple in 70 CE. They view things in centuries and millennia, and we view things in 4-year presidential cycles. They are playing chess, and we are playing checkers. It's time to wake up and start playing fucking chess. So, I'm going to play a clip by Ian Carroll that I got off X that really lays out everything from the post-World War I Balfour Declaration of 1917, being the British granting the Rothschilds Palestine, to our relationship with Israel today. This video is a great resource and saves me having to explain what Ian already put together. I agree with almost everything he says. After this video, I'll point out my difference of opinion, and here is the clip.
Might have been a bad idea, but Elon posted some super Israel Zionist propaganda, and I responded, for being so smart, you're exceptionally bad at understanding this one issue. It's kind of weird. And I got a lot of likes on that post, and he responded, like, what am I missing? And so naturally, I wrote a freaking essay about it, and it took 40 minutes to get 11K to 2K ratio on that. So here's some of my concerns. And right at the start, let's just be clear. I'm not saying that all Jews are in on some Jewish evil conspiracy to run the world, okay? That would be a straw man argument, and that's not what I'm claiming. We're talking about Israel here. And these are just some of the most obvious ones. First off, that AIPAC has purchased the seats of like 90% of our Congress, give or take. I made a whole thread with all my sources, and in this case, I used a video that I made myself where I cited a whole bunch of sources about AIPAC and about JFK trying to get them to register as a foreign agent the months before he got shot, and then they never registered. Secondly, that Israel's obviously the state sponsor of Jeffrey Epstein. He was an Israeli operation through and through, from his handler being Ehud Barak, the ex-prime minister of Israel, as well as the ex-head of Israeli military intelligence. His funding was from Les Wexner, one of the world's richest Zionist philanthropists, and he was accused openly by ex-Mossad assets of being Mossad. And that's not to mention his connection to Robert Maxwell, one of the most infamous Mossad spies ever. In that case, I used another one of my videos where I cited a whole bunch of evidence, and I'm just using them because they're fun ways to consume a lot of primary sources and evidence very quickly. But in most of these cases, I've made tons of different videos, and there's tons of evidence out there about all these claims. These are not complex claims. I mean, in this case, the most obvious and direct source is just To Read One Nation Under Blackmail by Whitney Webb. I'm on my 3rd read-through right now. Next, that Israel is the only nation who has a de facto sanction, but it's actually secret and unsanctioned nuclear program. And that's a program that they stole from the United States. Look into the Apollo affair, NUMEC, the Dimona nuclear facility. One great source, if you like video, is this NUMEC documentary produced by Ryan Dawson. It's available for free on Rumble. It's an amazing resource that is super, super diligent. Tons of primary sources in here. Shout out to Ryan Dawson. And then that Jews, Muslims, and Christians live side by side in peace in Palestine before the Rothschilds purchased the country from Great Britain during World War I. See the Balfour Declaration. Literally begins with the words, "Dear Lord Rothschild." Like, how many families in this world have ever received a letter from the largest empire in the world, the British Empire, saying, "Dear family, we give you a country"? When you dig into what they did to get this country, it's not great. And then when you learn about the history of the founding of Israel and the paramilitary groups that fought to found Israel, Lehi, Irgun, and Haganah, look them up. Lehi and Irgun were declared terrorist organizations by Israel themselves after they were founded because the whole international community was so pissed. You can source that straight off Wikipedia, but you can dig way deeper on it if you want to. Worth digging into how Lehi actually wanted to be allied with the Nazis because they thought it would be a more effective way to get Jews into Palestine. These guys were like bombing British civilians to make the British want to leave, not just bombing Palestinian civilians, both of which are war crimes. And then the leaders and founders of these terrorist organizations went on to be the prime ministers of Israel on multiple occasions for the next 30 years. You start to dig into the history of the previous prime ministers of Israel, and there's some super dark, violent people that ran this country. And that Israel's a foreign nation halfway across the world that has no business receiving my tax dollars. Why are we sending them billions of dollars of our money while our country is burning and overrun by illegal immigration and all these other problems. Like, go ask Grok how many billions of dollars we've sent to Israel. That's my money. Why are my tax dollars going to this other country? I don't want, like, what? Like, Israelis have free healthcare and like free education and shit. And we have homeless people on the streets and no one can afford a fucking thing over here. What's going on? This one up here got cut off, but there was an entire Israeli surveillance program leading into 9/11 titled the DEA report. Is this whole government report about these Israeli art students that were entering government buildings all across the continental United States. I linked to the entire DEA report as well as specific snippets. It's a massive report. I've read it through the whole thing. And it's like hundreds of instances of Israeli spies posing as art students trying to access government buildings all across the United States, clearly conducting surveillance operations on U.S. soil in the years 2000 and 2001. So our greatest ally, but they're spying on us right before 9/11 in a big way. And then, like, call it an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory all you want, but like, there are FBI documents clearly showing that there were fake Israeli moving companies all across the Eastern Seaboard leading into 9/11, and that members of these moving companies were out photographing themselves with the view of the attack on the trade centers the day before the attack, flicking lighters at the towers. And then the day of the attack, they were in position up to an hour before, witnessed by multiple people, up to an hour before the attacks, in position to take photos and film of the attack. Never got any answers. And that is all documented in official FBI reports that you can read yourself. I linked to the full FBI, all the documents, as well as to a 2.5-hour video of me breaking them down piece by piece. It's very clear when you read it that we never got any answers, but the investigation got squashed. The Israelis got deported. No answers whatsoever. And I'm not even saying that like Israel necessarily did 9/11 at all. Like, I don't know. All I know is that we have serious questions and the silence is deafening, but it's right there in the reports. And I don't know if you benefited from us taking down Afghanistan and from us taking down Iraq, but I didn't. But I know that Israel did. And I know that they were writing things like the Clean Break Report leading into that era with people like Richard Pearl, all these neocons. And they were explicitly saying that in the coming decades, we need to take out Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, Iran. Like, at this point, Iran is the only country on that list, or country on the list that was put out in the Clean Break Report that has not been overthrown by the U.S. empire on behalf of Israel. In fact, my generation has been distinctly robbed of like life, of money, of our freedoms, of like our American way of life on behalf of going to the Middle East to fight wars for Israel that we have no business fighting, with made up intelligence from Israel that we very well knew was fake at the time, like weapons of mass destruction. Those were Israeli intelligence reports fed to our CIA that fed them to our president and our security personnel. That's all not to mention just my obvious objections to the collective punishment, mass surveillance, forced starvation, bombing of refugee camps, brutal murdering of women and children that's been going on in Gaza and the West Bank for years, for decades, long before October 7th. And I'm not saying that I like promote the violence of October 7th. Like, I wish that we would have no violence. But this is a graph of the number of hostages held by Israel and the number of hostages held by Hamas as of 7/31/2024 from mainstream sources, okay? This has been the state of affairs over there forever, my entire lifetime and more. Any honest look at the lives of the Palestinians, it is very clear who is the oppressor and who is the oppressed. And if it's not clear to you, then you should really go to Rumble and watch this documentary called The Occupation of the American Mind. And it's all about how Israel realized partway through the 80s that if they did not develop a state-of-the-art propaganda campaign, they were going to lose the ideological war on the global stage. Because Americans were super not down with the video footage that was coming back from the bombing of refugee camps in places like Sabra and Shatila, among many others. And if American support for Israel was ever pulled, Israel is completely fucked. And they knew that. And so they moved in the 80s from just a warfare campaign against the Palestinians to a propaganda campaign targeting Americans, because that is the most important thing for Israel to do. Hence, the entire American discourse about Israel today. Watch this documentary. It will clear it right up. And it is mostly Jewish people speaking in this documentary. Okay? Let's be really clear here. This is not about the Jews. Most the dope Jewish people realize that Israel is the worst thing ever for the Jewish faith, because it makes it if you equate Israel with Judaism, that's fucked. I would never want the people that are sponsoring Jeffrey Epstein to represent my religion. That's horrible. And criticizing the government of Israel has nothing to do with criticizing Judaism, okay? So that's not what this is. This is a government that was founded through terrorism, funded by the mob, literally, and the Rothschilds, and has been stealing nuclear technology from the U.S., propagandizing the U.S., getting aid money from the U.S., and bombing civilians ever since. And yeah, they are also terrorized by their surrounding nations. I wonder why. But don't worry, it is all okay. It's all okay. It's all good. Because they are God's chosen people, after all.
So, one of the biggest things that I would disagree with him on is it isn't just Israel. It isn't just the Zionists. It's international Jewry. That's what it is. Jewry has always been international. They've always been a people living within other nations. They've been a nation within nations. And Jews internationally are more tribal than any other race of people on this planet. Because they all understand that history, that biblical history that I explained to you. They all share that history, or at least they claim to share that history. I know that there are going to be people that are going to say, well, the Jews from Europe are not from the tribes of Israel and whatever. And to be honest, it is completely irrelevant to debate that point. It's completely irrelevant. But what I can tell you right now, it's not just Israel. It's not just Zionism. Jews worldwide would love nothing more to see a third temple built where those mosques are. The United States of America, being Rome, has been hijacked by Jews, or Jerusalem. In my opinion, ultimately to blow up enough of the Middle East to push back the borders of all of these Muslim nations, whether they be Sunni, like much of the Gulf, or Shia, like Iran. The aim is to blow them up, to take away their weapons capabilities, to take away their reach, to push back their borders, so Israel can expand their borders. And once all of those nations have been crippled to the point where they cannot strike Israel in the way that you've been seeing, Israel, or Jewry, the Jews in Israel, in my opinion, are going to tear down those Muslim sites and build a third Jewish temple. Judaism does not work without a physical temple in that specific spot. It just doesn't. So in a weird way, it is logical that would be their ultimate step. It's logical. Just think about it for a minute. It makes sense. The issue is, through their Old Testament, New Testament vengeance against Rome, us, white Christians, because again, it was Rome that knocked the second temple over. It was Jesus Christ that said the second temple was going to fall. They have conquered us, and they are using us to achieve their Old Testament vengeance. That's the goal. I swear that's the goal. Now, if you Google, does Israel want to build a third temple? Google is going to say, oh no, they have no plan whatsoever to do that. They're going to say there's a fringe Jewish minority, a fringe Jewish extremist element that wants to do that. But when you look at some of those people, when you look up who they are, they're currently in pretty significant positions within the current Israeli government. They can't do that right now, though, because there are still too many Muslims in the Middle East, and there are still just not enough barriers between the nations. That's why Israel wants to expand the border. Yes, it's oil. Yes, it's trade. It's controlling everything from the Red Sea, Persian Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz. It's controlling all of that stuff into the Mediterranean. The Jared Kushner and Ivanka wanting to buy that island off of Albania. That is not a coincidence. That's not for a resort. I don't even think it's for a second Epstein Island. I think it's strategic for Jewry. It's strategic for them. It's strategically located. It's an extra buffer. It's so they can control the waterway better. That's what you're seeing. And we need to come to a conclusion. Are we Rome or are we Jerusalem? Are we white Christianity or are we hijacked helping Jerusalem or the Jews? Because they're pissed off that the second temple fell, and they're pissed off that Jesus Christ was the one who said it was going to fall. I explained to you the disconnect between Judaism and Christianity. I made it very clear. It is very, very obvious. It's very obvious. Unfortunately, it wasn't obvious to the evangelical boomers that got fed these lines of propaganda, that got fed fake notations in the Bible, and they supported Israel. They supported Israel. They supported Israel when Israel sank the USS Liberty. I mean, fortunately, the younger generations are waking up to this, but we have decisions to make. And to be very honest with you, a lot of people are like, oh, Candace Owens champions this issue against Israel and Charlie Kirk and all of this stuff. An African woman, and I respect her, but an African woman is not leading Rome. Vivek Ramaswamy is not leading Rome. J.D. Vance, married to Usha Vance, is not leading Rome. Or Western civilization. Or white Christianity. Whatever you want to call it. White people have to do that. And here in the United States, you take a look at the Naturalization Act of 1790. Naturalization for U.S. citizens or people coming into the U.S., new citizens, free white persons of good character. White being a multiracial word meaning people from Europe. That's the word. Not Somalia, not Sudan, not Congo, not India, no climate change refugee from Haiti, from Europe. The United States of America was founded as an extension of Europe. The best of everything that Europe had to offer in the United States of America. New Rome. New Europe. And we are hijacked. We have been taken over. by Israel. You've got Benjamin Netanyahu. He doesn't hide it. Netanyahu doesn't hide it. Jews versus Rome. Oh, we lost the first one. We can't lose the second one. We've been conquered right now. We are occupied. Maybe not conquered, but we are being conquered. And there's more than one way to destroy a nation. I mean, you can blow it all up like we deforested Europe in World War II. We can destroy all of it. We can blow it all up. We can conquer them that way. Or we can be conquered that way. Or you can do a more slow but sure, steady pace. And maybe just, I don't know, melt the races together and homogeny and seep in and take over the institutional powers. Start the American Jewish Congress. Start AIPAC. Open up 100 Holocaust museums. And we're going to talk about that in a second, the Holocaust in a second. You could do all of this stuff. You could make Christmas more secular. You can complain about Christmas music being too Jesus-y. And fun fact, I think 11 of like the most famous Christmas carols or Christmas songs, I won't call them carols, but Christmas songs, including Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, were written by Jews. I think Chestnuts Roasting on an Open Fire was written by a Jew. White Christmas was written by a Jew. Silver and Gold, Silver Bells, all of those songs were written by Jews. Jews that came here in the very early 20th century, maybe late 19th, early 20th. And they wanted to turn Christmas into more of a patriotic holiday. It was too Jesus-like. It needed to be more secular. So we're gonna turn Christmas into a holiday about snow and chestnuts and reindeer and presents and Amazon and who is going to buy the best gift. Which is like the opposite of what Christmas is supposed to be about. Obviously. So you can destroy a nation that way. You can run its finance. You can become president of, I think it's 6 of the Ivy League schools. I think 6 of them have Jewish presidents. You can have AIPAC buy almost all of Congress. Thomas Massey talked about that in his first episode with Tucker Carlson. Yeah, everybody has an AIPAC guy except me on the Republican aisle. It's fucking wild, right? You can be Miriam Adelson. I think between 2016 and 2024, I think the Adelsons spent, I think it was like $420 million on Trump campaigns in 16, in 20, and in 24. She bought this presidency. She bought the Iran war. So that is Jerusalem. Everything is about Jerusalem. Moving the embassy to Jerusalem. The old capital that David started for the old United Kingdom of Israel, however many thousand years ago. Move it there. This kingdom that lasted 120 years. It lasted 120 years, and they're like, oh, we need to make that. We need that back. And then some. And then some. And we're going to have the war on terror, which is really the war against countries Israel doesn't like, because those countries are Muslim. And the Muslims built the mosque on the old Temple Mount. Like, it is clear as day. It's clear as day. In half of Europe, I think it's like 18 countries. I think there are like 18 or 19 countries. Most of them in Europe, like half of Europe or maybe like a third of Europe. Russia, Israel, and now Canada in Canada, you can go to jail in Canada today for up to 2 years if you deny the Holocaust. And now we need to talk about this for a minute. And I left World War II German history out of this because we can relitigate all of it. But ultimately, in the end, it just doesn't fucking matter. Because we don't need to make the decision for them in the 1930s. We need to make the decision for us today. But the Holocaust, for example, the Holocaust is the event that Jews will point to when you're talking about the legitimacy of 1948 Israel. They say, we need 1948 Israel because if we don't have 1948 Israel, then maybe the next Hitler is going to come back and kill 6 million more of us. That's their reasoning. That's their rationale behind it. Again, I don't need to debate, was it 0 Jews that died in the Holocaust? Was it 271,000? Was it 6 million? Was it 8 million? I don't need to debate that. I know it's illegal to question it, which is kind of fucking sus. Like, did it happen the way they said it did? Because, like, if it really did, and if it was so fact-based, you wouldn't need laws to prop it up. Like, for example, if I were to say that the transatlantic slave trade was a giant hoax, and Africans were never, ever enslaved in any of the American nations or any of the American colonies, you would look at me and you'd tell me that I was a fucking idiot. Look at all of the constitutions at the state level, at the province level, in every country. Every constitution has something written in it about slavery. That is well documented. And oh, by the way, more Africans died in the transatlantic slave trade and in slavery in the Americas than Jews died in the Holocaust. But hey, we got to keep our priorities straight, right? They're not part of Rome or Jerusalem, so whatever, fuck them. That's the thought behind it. But my point being, if it was so well documented, like, why can't the event just stand on its own 2 feet? Why do you need laws? Why do you need to send people to jail? In Germany, you can get sent to jail for up to 5 years for saying that didn't happen. That's thought crime. And that's a communist idea, which comes from Karl Marx. Karl Marx being Jewish. It makes sense now, doesn't it? They want the anti-Semitic speech laws here in the United States. Again, referencing Thomas Massey's first episode with Tucker Carlson. Thomas Massey gave an example saying that it would be considered anti-Semitic and illegal to say that the policies of Israel matched what we were told the policies were of the Third Reich. And he said, well, what if the policies became the same thing? Because if that was just factually accurate, would it also be illegal? Like, there's a lot to think about there. There's a lot there. But again, to the Holocaust, 0, 1, 5 million, 6 million, 7 million, 271,000, it doesn't matter. But it is weird. It is weird that you will go to prison for questioning it in parts of the world. That's a little weird. But regardless, we don't need to debate that. We can talk about the Havara Agreement, which was the agreement between the Third Reich and Zionist organizations in Palestine to send Jews from Germany to Palestine. I think 60,000 of them migrated through this program, through the Havara Agreement. We can talk about how the Third Reich developed the Madagascar Plan. After the Third Reich defeated France, they developed the Madagascar Plan. Madagascar was a French colony. And when they beat France, they took the French colony and they were going to use Madagascar as a destination for European Jews to go to. But World War II had kicked off and that plan never came to fruition. So there are a lot of things that you can take a look at, and I'm not going to deep dive into it because ultimately at the end, whether Hitler good or Hitler bad, it doesn't matter for us today, us white people, Rome today. They don't dislike the Hitler salute or the Nazi salute because Hitler did it. They ultimately dislike it because it's the Roman salute. That's why. That's why. They dislike Germany because Germany, the First Reich, was the Holy Roman Empire. The Second Reich was the German Empire. And the Third Reich was National Socialist Germany. Again, very odd how Moses Hess in 1862 is writing about combining Jewish ethno-nationalism and socialism, and that's okay. But when Hitler combined nationalism and socialism, that was bad. So again, is it really about being mean to the Jews, or is National Socialism a good society, economic, life, culture, national policy that actually works? And that's why they want to deter Rome or Europe or anywhere that isn't Jewish from living that way in a completely homogenous society where everybody, all of your neighbors, it's all your own folk, your own kin, your own people, your own culture. You're in charge of your own resources. You're in charge of your own finance, which again, if a nation is in charge of its own finance and it's a closed circuit, well, then the Rothschilds that need to collect your interest in order to continue to fund Israel, well, they're not making their money off of your country then. And you're not under their thumb. Because it's not okay to have one nation do their own thing. The same way it's not okay to have Congressman Thomas Massie be like the one guy that's like, I don't give foreign aid to anybody. I vote no for every country, including Israel. But it wasn't good enough. You can't just have that one guy. You can't have that one guy. You can't have Germany doing their own thing. You can't have Mussolini in Italy doing his own thing. You can't have Thomas Massie out there doing his own thing. No dissent. Rome must be conquered. The Jews versus Rome. Netanyahu said it. We lost the first one. We're not going to lose the second one. Who is Rome? Western civilization, white people, Christianity. That's all Rome. And Rome is being conquered, and I've already said it. I've gotten redundant at this point. But we are under occupation because our resources are being used to kill Muslims, to kill Arabs, to kill the Palestinians, to kill anybody that is close enough to the territory Israel wants to assume in order to fortify its borders, to create a greater Israel, a new Israeli kingdom, tear down the mosques on the Temple Mount, and build the third temple. That's what they want to do. We blow up their homes for them. We give them bombs. We give them everything to go blow up their homes. The ones they don't kill, the people they don't kill, well, they send them here. When Trump was campaigning, I think it was in, 23, 24, sometime in there, and he was saying that the border is opened, we've got bad people spilling in from Syria, ISIS is coming across the border, all of this stuff. He wasn't lying. He wasn't lying about that. We blow up their homes, and the refugees get sent to Europe, and to the United States, and to Canada, and Australia. They get sent to Rome. Jerusalem, the Jews, Jerusalem uses us, Rome, to blow up Islam, and then sends Islam to Rome, emptying out the Middle East. So they destroy Rome through that mass migration and through taking our resources. And again, another way to destroy a nation, send them to war. It's the blueprint we're using against Russia. The idea that we'll whittle Russia down. We'll grind them down to a stump. will just keep them in perpetual warfare with Ukraine forever. And eventually they'll just fall. Well, that's what we're doing. That's what AIPAC, that's what Miriam Adelson, that's what Jewry is doing to us right now. Or Jerusalem. That's what they're doing to us. That's another way to destroy a country. Spend them into ruin, economic collapse. Force them to go fight on your behalf. Expend all of their munitions. Blow up all of our planes. Blow up all of our boats. It's almost like we're trying to suicide our military. It's really weird. We're using our resources to grind down countries, Muslim countries, Iran being the big one right now. And by the way, just a side note, Turkey is next. Turkey's next. I guarantee you by 2030, the United States of America is no longer in NATO because Israel wants to hit Turkey. Why Turkey? Turkey is a Muslim nation who believes in the mosque built on the Temple Mount. Turkey has military capability to pack a really powerful fucking punch to Israel. Israel wants to strike Turkey. Right now, because Turkey is a NATO ally, we are bound to defend Turkey against any attack. So you're going to see Trump or Vance or Rubio or whoever, I bet by 2030, the United States is out of NATO, so Israel can strike Turkey, and then we'll be right there behind them. Because we'll find our next politician that's been blackmailed by the next Epstein, or the Adelsons will spend several $100 million more for the next guy. The next guy to be installed to go to war on behalf of Jerusalem. We have to uncouple that relationship. And again, Candace Owens isn't going to be the one to do it. Kamala Harris, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Latinos coming to the conservative movement, conservatism, none of these things are going to undo what is done. Because none of it identifies as white, Christian, or Rome. So it's up to white people to do this. And the way we do this is to organize. We have to organize, obviously. And how do you start an organization? Well, first off, you have to define membership. White. There's your membership. There's your membership. That's the requirement. You have to be white. If you're not white, you're not part of it. And it isn't because of systemic hatred and bigotry. It's not because of racism or anything like that. It's because our country was founded as an extension of Europe or Rome. We're Rome. Israel, Netanyahu, Jewry, Jerusalem, they're at war with Rome, so they're at war with white people. So we need to be the ones organizing. We need to be the ones leading our movement. So you have to define the membership. That's the first step. Defining membership. White. And we need to end all of this post-World War II Holocaust, oh, you're a Nazi type of bullshit. No more. No more sitting there watching your TV show or whatever, your show on Hulu, your show on whatever you're watching, being propagandized. You're like, oh, those are the Nazis. Those methed out white guys with swastikas tattooed to their heads. That's the propaganda. And people watch that and they're like, yep, that's what a white organization is. A bunch of cracked out white boys smoking fucking meth, tattooing their foreheads with the swastika. That's what your show will, that's what your show, your episode, whatever you're watching, that's what it says. That's white organization. And there are millions of white people that literally they think that that's what organizing along white racial lines is. Organizing along black racial lines, well, that's MLK, and that's freedom fighting. Organizing along white racial lines, you're methed out biker gang missing half your teeth, screaming white power, and you probably want slavery again. Like that's what the media will show you. We have to knock that down. We have to completely dismantle that. Do away with that. Disregard it. They're always going to say it. Disregard it. So white, that has to be the organization. That has to be the organization. And we have to build that organization on self-love. It's not hatred of other demographics. Now, I get it. Like, people are like, well, send them all back, total remigration. Like, we need that. But in the beginning, like, we can't organize based on that. We have to organize based on ourselves. We have to organize Rome. We have to organize white people. We have to get familiar with our culture again. We have to get familiar with European culture. American culture has become so commercialized. It's become so commercialized. It's all about materialism. Even country music. You take a look at country music. Country music was the white people music. Country music today is hip hop now. Jelly Roll is what you get when Jews tell you who a country singer is. I don't want the face tattoo guy leading my cause. He's got a great voice, but face tattoo man, no. But that's my point. Like, your culture, it's being erased. Even your white American culture is being erased, and nobody has any idea about anything classical European. And in some ways, I put myself in that category. I don't know enough. I'm German and Irish. I don't know enough about being German. I don't know enough about being Irish. I don't know enough about the Renaissance. I don't know enough about Greek philosophy. I don't know enough about any of that. So I put myself in that category. I need to educate myself better. And I need to drown out all of the other distractions, all of the bread and circuses, all of that shit. I need to drown that out. And we need to get more in touch with our roots. That's what we need to do. And it has to start on the local level. And the way you go about doing that is you find white people that have common interests. It could be book club. It could be Bible study. It could be moms taking their kids to a play group or participating in a play group. It could be physical fitness. A group of guys going to the park, work out at the park, take your kids, have them work out with you. You find those types of things. You use pre-existing infrastructure as well to organize. Instead of sitting at home watching football and yelling at your TV, cheering for your favorite football team, instead of doing that, maybe get the kids together, find a handful of parents, take with their kids, organize a flag football at the park or something. Do something like that instead. The dads can play for a half hour, the kids can play for a half hour, and then go do some community building activity together. Start out that way. It doesn't have to be this. You don't have to build Rome overnight. It starts out small. Find like-minded people with like-minded interests. And if sports isn't your thing, okay, cool. Then you're going to find white people that are into literature instead. You're going to find that. And you have to start creating these little tiny cliques within your community. And then each clique needs to start networking with the other clique. And you build a network, maybe throughout your county, throughout your state, throughout your nation. That's how you build the organization. It's kind of like the TPUSA model. Start out small, chapter by chapter by chapter by chapter on the college campuses. Boom. I think Charlie started that in 2012. And by 2024, he was kingmaker. In 12 years, he went from starting an organization at 18 to picking the president of the United States of America in 12 years. So this can be done. It can be done, but it has to start at the grassroots level. I would avoid selecting a savior. People are like, Massey, we want Massey. Thomas Massey is a libertarian. Thomas Massey is a wonderful representative. He has done so much for this country. He has exposed all sorts of corruption. But he doesn't have the teeth to lead a white nationalist movement, a Roman movement. He doesn't have the teeth for that. And libertarians tend to be more individualistic, and nationalism is more collective. It's a collective identity, not an individualistic identity. So we gotta. I don't want to hear anybody say Tucker Carlson 2028. Carlson Vance Carlson, Carlson Massey, Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't want to hear that shit. Like, Marjorie Taylor Greene, really? Yeah, cool. She said some base stuff, but I don't think her ex-husband could trust her all too much. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I can't trust her. And women shouldn't be the leader for a more Roman, Caesar-like, biblical-like, patriarch-like movement. Now, women have a role in it, of course, absolutely, but not the leader of the whole thing. And that's all part of kind of the hierarchy of the organization. And we can get more detailed about that later on. But organization building, who? That's the big thing. That's the big thing. And what do we want to pull from Europe? What do we want to pull from our American culture that was kind of built, this melting pot of Europe that we built originally? What do we want to pull from that? Would it be art, literature, government style? Because there are several to pull from. It's not just democracy. There are a lot of things to pull from. Add that as a pillar. And again, one of the pillars, it has to be white, and we have to make it that way for another reason. The two-party system. We have to end the two-party system. And here in the United States, the two-party system exists because white people split their vote 50-50. White people split it 50-50. Half of the white people are Democrat, half of the white people are Republican. And then you have the black voting bloc that typically votes Democrat. And today you have Mayra Flores, for example, talking about how Latinos are going to save conservatism. You have Vivek Ramaswamy, J.D. Vance and Usha Vance. Like, oh, we need more Indians in the conservative movement. What does that do for Rome? What does that do for white Christian men and women? What does that do? Nothing. Nothing. That doesn't do anything for Rome. It doesn't do anything for Rome. The conservative movement is multicultural politics on the right. The leftist movement is multicultural politics on the left. You have gay Scott Pressler and Caitlyn Jenner, Bruce Jenner in drag on the right. You have LGBTQ on the left. What's the difference? You have Indians on the left replacing you. You have Indians on the right replacing you. You have Latinos on the left replacing you. You have Latinos on the right replacing you. What's the difference then? There is no difference. There's no difference. So, where's that person? Where's that person saying this election is for the white working class? Well, that person doesn't exist. You would hear vote Joe Biden or you're not black. You hear about black employment. You hear about bringing Latinos into conservatism. And, well, to get them in the conservative movement, what do you have to do? Well, you have to give them something. You have to take something that belongs to Rome and you have to give it to Latinos. That's what you have to do in conservatism. If you want to gatekeep blacks on the left, you have to continue to give them things. It's not complicated. That's racial bloc voting. It's racial bloc voting. Go back and listen to Malcolm X, the bullet and the ballot speech. He gave a few different variations of that speech, but I think it was 1963, I want to say. He talks about this. The white vote was evenly divided, left and right. And the black vote was the bloc that swung the election. It's no different today. And because white people are the majority racial demographic in the country, we are discouraged from organizing across racial lines. Because if we organized across racial lines and voted white interests, white Christian interests, the interests of Rome over Jerusalem, well, AIPAC wouldn't have the influence that it has because American Jews make up, I don't know, a percent of the population, less than 1% of the population. I forget what the percentage is, but basically none of the population. You get what I'm saying? Like, they need conservative movement, multiracial politics movement. They need that mix so they can mix in and then steer it. Like Miriam Adelson steered the movement by throwing hundreds of millions of dollars at it. That way. That's why they need it. Because if it was closed circuit, white people, white interests only, Rome would not be interested in going to war in the Middle East for Jerusalem. Because, again, Christians don't believe that there has to be a third physical temple. That's a Jewish idea. Jesus Christ said, no second temple. The second temple will fall. I am the third temple. That's what he said. But for some reason, we have been hijacked. And we've been hijacked because we melted all of this multiculturalism together. We fight with each other. White people fight with each other over pride. Over pride. Excuse me. You go to a baseball game in June. Oh my God, it's a pride game. And half the people are like, fuck this. And the other half are like, I love this. And just based on their reaction to that alone, you can tell, are they voting to the left or are they voting to the right? Because they're divided on a culture war issue. Abortion can divide a household. Let's say that you, as the husband, are a small business owner. You are voting this way because this party or this candidate will lower your taxes. And that's good for your economic situation, your entire family's economic situation. And you would hope that your wife would vote that way too to benefit your financial or your economic situation. But no, she's not. She's going to vote the other way because she wants to defend a woman's right to choose. Therefore, you split the vote 50-50. Because that candidate that was like, we're going to help your income, we're going to help you with taxes, we're going to help your small business, he was pro-life. And she wants to vote for the person that's for a woman's right to choose, splitting the household 50-50. Again, another culture war type issue designed to split the vote. And we can go through all of these things. Again, the right wing, not the left wing, the right wing is floating the idea of amnesty. Why are they floating the idea of amnesty? Why would conservatives float the idea of amnesty? Well, I said it earlier. Excuse me again. Because they want to bring more Latinos into the conservative movement. So they're going to float amnesty out there, hoping to get more Latino voters. These Latino voters are thinking, well, maybe my family who's here illegally will get citizenship. Or be on a fast track to it. Or at the very least, just not be deported. Does that sound like we're saving Rome? Or does that sound like we're saving conservatism? It doesn't sound like we're saving Rome. It doesn't help white people at all. That doesn't help white people one bit. So, again, we have to end the two-party system. The two-party system is what keeps our race divided. We have to stop engaging with the partisan politics. And we have to start thinking about things in terms of what's best for us as a people. What is best for us collectively. And that requires us to lose the aspects of this post-segregation individualistic spirit, individualistic idea that we kind of formed. It became, instead of it being about my community, it became about my house, my yard, my car, mine, instead of us. We lost this kind of community, collective community spirit. And it became more individualistic. And the more individualistic we became, the more dependent on corporations, on materialism, on all of this slop, all of the cheap $15 shit that you can find on Amazon, these little trinkets, individual consumer habits, individual consumer spending, instead of collectively thinking about, well, how can we build an economy where we all benefit? And closed-circuit homogenous economies, or closed-circuit homogenous communities, have closed-circuit economies, and the money stays within the community. Because mom and pop own that store. That family owns the other store. That family owns this shop. That family owns this restaurant. In this community, not all things are bought on Amazon. The money stays local. When you buy from Amazon, the money goes anywhere in the world, and it doesn't make its way back to your community. So we have to think more collectively. We have to think more locally. That's something that we have to do. And then we have to network those ideas nationally. We have to do that. That's how we build community by community, state by state, county by county, city by city, state by state. You get what I'm saying. And then on a national level. And we're not going to do that tomorrow. We're not going to do that tomorrow. It's just not happening tomorrow. It's not happening in 26. It's not happening in 28. It's going to take some time. It's going to take a little bit of time. I mean, the American Revolution, it was planned on a local level. Not everybody just woke up on the same day and said, today is the day. They met in pubs, local pubs throughout the colonies, and they talked about it. They planned, they coordinated, they worked. They worked together, mostly. The Bolsheviks that hijacked the Russian Empire, the Marxists that met, they used book clubs, they used universities. They organized little tiny book clubs and passed out their pamphlets and their literature. They radicalized people that way. The National Socialists, they had to meet in beer halls. And then even Adolf Hitler had to win an election. And that's another thing that we need to get this idea that we're gonna shoot our way out of this. We're not going to shoot our way out of this. Hitler had to win an election. Okay? So, we have a lot of people in this country. A lot of "don't tread on me," a lot of "they'll never take my gun," a lot of "come take it" bumper sticker on the back of your truck. Take a look at Texas, for example. Everybody in Texas, like, you're not going to take Texas. Really? How many motherfuckers came across the border through Texas? And you're going to tell, you're not going to take my stuff? Really? Really? Are they doing anything about Little India being built in Texas? No. They're not. They're not. They do anything about the border? No. Nothing. So we have to end this idea. This idea that, we're gonna organize 100 million Americans and we're gonna just storm the Capitol. We're gonna take our country back that way. I don't know. I'm not sure. Not sure about that. We have to stop thinking that way. Now, that isn't to say, though, that we shouldn't exercise our Second Amendment. Learn how to shoot. Learn how to shoot well. It's not wrong to get out your little .22 long rifle and give it to your 9-year-old, give it to your 10-year-old. Let them start shooting little tin cans with it. A little rodent rifle, like, that's not the wrong way to go. Again, don't let, oh, whoa, you're giving a kid a rifle? Oh my God. Like, don't let the outside noise stop you from doing something like that. And that's a hobby, gun culture in white America. That is a huge industry, or a huge club. A huge club. Now, you need to be careful organizing and things like that, because there are people out there that'll try to entrap you. There are feds out there that will try to entrap you. Oh, do you want to buy this gun? Yeah, I know it's not really compliant to these regulations, but like, do you want to buy it? Will you sell me that one? And then boom, before you know it, you're fucked. So you need to be careful with that. But organize there. Organize in that way. Teach that skill. Teach how to fish. Teach how to cook. Health and nutrition. That's another one. White fitness clubs. White fitness. White health and fitness. White mind, body, and spirit. Get right with your spirit. Get right with God. Get right with Christ. Get right with your body. Move. Work out. Healthy eating, nutrition. That's a huge thing. That is huge. That is huge. They stopped teaching home ec, and nobody learned how to cook. Mom and dad didn't teach their kids how to cook because they're like, well, the school will do it. And then the school's like, well, we're not doing that because of gender roles. It's discriminatory to young women. It's like, well, men need to learn how to cook too. Teach people how to cook. Get a group of people. Cook a meal together. Instead of making the whole thing yourself for all of your guests, maybe get a few families together and maybe everybody pitch in. Teach the kids what to do. Teach them how to make something real instead of just pushing buttons on a microwave. I think the reason why a lot of people eat, consume microwavable shit, it's not because of time. It's because they don't know how to cook. Again, organize along those types of lines. Life skills, that type of stuff. That's how we kind of get our culture back. That's how we get our culture back. And then we organize in that way. Not in like a political party kind of way, but a shared culture kind of way. That's the way you do it. Your political party, that doesn't bind you together in a real way. Those parties are multicultural, multiracial. It's all about votes. It's all about maximum votes for the least worst candidate. That's what it's about. Your culture, though, thousands of years of everything that makes you you, yeah, that's something that can bind you together. And when united enough, now you can fucking do something about something. But everybody's like, oh, we need to do something right now. Well, we're not organized right now, guys. We're not organized right now. We're not organized. And yelling at each other back and forth on social media isn't going to organize anything. They want us yelling at each other on social media. Because if we're yelling at each other on social media, we're not out in the world organizing. And the only way that we stop Jerusalem, or the Jews, who have organized and who are out in the real world doing shit right now, like blackmailing all of our politicians, paying all of our politicians, running all of our media companies, running all of our social media companies, building the AI apparatus, all of that shit, opening our borders, funding Antifa, George Soros, Antifa, Jew. Go back to Biden, Antony Blinken, Alejandro Mayorkas, Jews that open the border. It's not complicated. Jerusalem is doing that. It's Jerusalem. We need to decide to be Rome. Rome first. Not Jerusalem first. Rome first. Which is white first. Christian first. Christian first. White first. Combination of the two. But the movement has to be white. We can't have the Protestants and the Catholics fighting because it's a Protestant movement. It's a Catholic movement. It has to be a white movement. It has to be a white movement because our culture, it predates Christianity. Now, a lot of our culture has evolved to include or to embrace Christianity, but our culture existed first. And once we organize our tribe, once we organize Rome, go be Protestant, go be Catholic, go be pagan, go be whatever. Totally cool. Because we won't be giving all of our resources, whether we're Protestant, whether we're Catholic, whether we're pagan, we're giving all of our money to Jews right now. We're giving our money to Jerusalem. So once we organize and decide that we're not doing that, well, then you can go be a little more individualistic. So those are some of the things. And we have to establish pillars. We have to establish pillars. And those pillars, they can't move. They cannot move. We cannot have LGBTQ. We cannot have Indians. We cannot have Jews. We cannot have the Sudanese or the Somalis leading our movement. We have to have the movement first. We're not organized right now. And we need to stop thinking about things in terms of Republican versus Democrat, left versus right. Now, there are plenty of white people that we're not going to want to unite with. And there are plenty that aren't going to want to unite with us. Because their ideology is just so far to the fucking left. And it is what it is. But we have to find the people that will. We have to tell them that it's okay to organize along racial lines. It doesn't make you Hitler. It doesn't make you Mussolini. It doesn't make you Francisco Franco. It means you're putting Rome ahead of Jerusalem. You are putting America ahead of Israel. Let Israel, let Jerusalem, let the Jews deal with their own problem. If they want to go build a third temple, they can go build it themselves. But they're done taking our stuff so they can go fulfill that desire of theirs. So they can go try to undo a prophecy of Jesus Christ. Because that's what the aim is. That's what the aim is. And lastly, I'm going to say, because we're still going to have to vote. We still have to. Maybe not in every election, because there are just some really shitty choices, to be honest with you. And it's not a matter of what will wind up happening. It's more of a matter of how quick will it happen. So, if there's a candidate that'll fuck shit up slower, regardless of party, maybe that's the way to go. But the elections that we need to be looking at, the ones that we continuously miss, we miss the city elections, we miss things on the township level, we miss things on the county level. The replacement migration, the floodgate of migrants that were sent here by Jews. The decisions to take those people in, sanctuary city, that has nothing to do with the state. That has nothing to do with the federal government. Trump's like, we're going to end sanctuary cities. Well, we haven't done anything to end sanctuary cities. Because the sanctuary cities just said, make us. And then he sent ICE there, and ICE left. So, again, don't look to the savior. You have to look at the local level. That's where you have to organize. It's all about the local. And you win county by county, city by city, and then all of a sudden your state starts to look a lot different. And if you have groups of people that care that much, and they will vote along racial lines, white racial lines, develop a supermajority. We're still 58 to 60% of this country. Do you realize that? The whole system falls. The whole system, the whole political system collapses. The two-party system collapses if 60% of the people decide that, well, we're the new party. Fuck your conservatism. Fuck your liberal left. It's Rome. It's white. It's Christian. It's American. That's where we're going with it. Because that's what our founding fathers said this country was going to be. And not because of systemic hatred and bigotry and racism and anti-Semitism and almost 6 million dead. Like, that's not why. They didn't want to be Hitler. They wanted to be Europe. They wanted to be Rome. They wanted to be great. And that's what we need to focus on. It starts at the community level. And we need to stop this. We need to stop this whole, if we don't give Israel all of our money, then Hitler's going to come back and kill 6 million more of them. Don't fall for it anymore. The Holocaust dictating 80 years of our policy, it's done. It's done. Movies shaming you into thinking that you're biker gang meth head Nazis if you organize among other white people. That's over. We need to stop listening to that. And we need to start listening to each other. And we need to start organizing among ourselves. That's how we fix it all. And yeah. So let's start doing that. And maybe we'll take Rome back. Maybe we'll free ourselves from Jerusalem. We'll see. But which side are you on? Are you Rome? White, Gentile, Christian? You say maybe you're pagan. Are you white Christian, pagan, non-Jewish? Or are you Jerusalem, Jewish, thinking you're going to undo Jesus' prophecy and build a third temple and We need to knock down the mosques. Which are you? Are you Rome or Jerusalem? Because if you give all your money to Israel, you're not Rome, you're Jerusalem. And you're not part of us. So, that's what you have to think about. So, be Rome. That's the way to go. Thank you for tuning in.